Hello, hello, all the podcast enthusiasts. I don't know if that's the right word. Anywho, hope you're having a great day. And we are on here a little bit later than normal. I just feel like we maybe haven't found some consistency in the times and all that stuff. But you know what? It's good because we're letting things emerge as they emerge. And as things emerge into your life, you actually allow yourself to surrender to the mystery of the universe, which is pretty cool. And it's not an easy place to be. Some people say, well, I'm riding the wave. And this is, I think, a little different than just riding the wave. It's also surrendering to knowing that what is showing up in your life is meant for you and allowing that to be there without trying to force any kind of agenda or structure into your life, but allowing the structure to emerge as it's supposed to. And then being aware of that emergence. So it's been such a huge, hey, GP man, it's been a while since I've seen you on here. But really excited to kind of discuss where things are going. I mean, I think Pam and I have gone even deeper than we could have imagined. And
Mhm.
you guys know I've been on this journey my whole life. I think since I was 3, right? I always tell people because that's like the earliest remembrance of when I felt connected to God or the universe, right? Prior to that, I don't know that my memories were there yet or able to build, but just knowing that I've always had this vision of community and finding people who were able to co-create with me, which um is emerging and in such a
Mm.
beautiful way. I think GP man, you've followed me for a long time. I was a solo act for a very long just trying to figure myself out, right? And then Pam emerges and now everything is emerging for these individuals who are ready to kind of
Mm.
transcend narratives, which
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about, and that's the twin flame narrative.
Yep.
We started with the twin flame narrative where I think that was the big aha moment for
Very
me
long
was
journey.
yeah, well, to understand what it is, right? Because it's such a powerful force where this
Yeah.
person entered my life and totally ignited this dormant side of me that I didn't even know was dormant. Like,
Mhm.
I thought it was good. You always think you're good. You're like, "Hey, I'm doing great." I'm like on top of the world, and then boosh, this wave of energy hits you, and you're like, "Holy shit, what is all this?" So the twin flame, we've talked
Yeah, it
about
was
it.
definitely the opposite. It was not on
Mhm.
top of the world. It
Oh,
was,
no.
like, dead and numb inside,
Oh,
and it, like,
no.
ripped open all of that deadness and was like, "Here, why don't you feel? Why don't you
Oh, sh
recognize you're an empath and, like, here's desires and, lust for life." Um,
oh.
so but now I'm on top of the world.
Oh, good, good, good. Well, I'm back on top of the world, thank God, because I was like no, I was on top of the world, and then all this, like, wave of stuff. Because I was like, I'm good by myself, I can do this alone." I'm like this independent, strong woman, and then poof, this guy shows up, right, and just, like, slaps me across the face, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe I was asleep, kind of." This other part of me or whatever that needed to be awakened in order to come to this unity consciousness that we're talking about, which I
Mhm.
think the twin flame scenario provides the opportunity for us to understand that unity consciousness,
Yes.
which is huge. Um, so in that, there's a lot of like the sexual energy that comes with that. And I think that's the big piece. I mean, if I put sex on here, I think everybody would show up to this podcast. They're like, what? Sex? We'd have a billion followers.
Alright.
Um, but it is sexual energy, sensual energy, that happens between men and women, and this is part of healing that I need, is to understand what does a healthy connection between men and women look like. I felt like I was healthy within myself, um, and healthy within my own story, and then again, the twin flame showed up because, as this individual showed up in my life, I just felt like I had to be with them. It was like I felt like I couldn't live without them, and that was new for me, because there was never really attachment, and people would always ask me, "Are you in a relationship? Are you this? Are you that?" People were always very curious about my status, and I'm always like, "Well, no. Like, I don't want relationship. I don't want that. It's not." But with this individual, I couldn't help but wanna be with this person. And that was, like, the twin flame thing, right? Where it shows up and you're just like, "Whoa." So, so kind of feeling the same way, and, like, what was your scenario, right? Didn't you feel that way, Pam?
Yeah, definitely. It was challenging and it was rough. Um, I think the biggest thing that I realize now in like lots of reflection and self growth is like the bigger energy that it taps into and unleashes through all this chaos, right? It's like uncorking the bottle.
Mhm,
It is all the archetypes that
mhm,
then, like wounded, like that just surface. And if you don't really understand some of that, I think it can be psychosis.
mhm,
It
mhm,
can
mhm,
definitely down to a dark path. Like, am I crazy? Is something wrong with me? The way I care about people, right? The way that I feel, like it's too
mhm,
intense. It's too much. Nobody. Um, so it can get very heavy and dark, and I think that's where like the transmutation happens. And like you said, attachment. So in attachment theory of trauma, when we're born, our first instinct with our caregivers is attachment, right? We need all of our needs are based on someone else.
mhm,
Otherwise we don't survive, we die as babies, right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
so it's programmed and it's wired in us from the moment we enter the world and we take our first breath, that we need to have a healthy bond and attachment.
mhm,
And I think as children, clearly we don't always have that, right? We have one strong dominant caregiver and then there's other people or whatnot. So that plays a huge piece in how we do attach or how we reject, or you know what I mean? How our relationships with every single person then continue to develop throughout our lifetime. So it was a lot of mirroring that allowed me just to understand who I was. So when you can work through the ego and the separation, I think the conditioning where we're taught we need to just have relationships and have children and work 9 to 5 jobs and then die, right? That's pretty much our only purpose. um and so we buy into that narrative and we believe that, right? So then when you look and you're like, well, relationships don't actually work the way we believe them to work, and community isn't, these things are deeper than that. So it allowed me to just strip away conditioning by
mhm,
getting comfortable in the uncomfortable,
mhm,
by
mhm,
questioning. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, I've never in my life tried to remove cords, cut cords, embrace cords. I mean, I did everything, rituals, surrender, burn the hell out of shit, like moon ceremonies, like if it was a full moon, a new moon, you
mhm,
know what I mean?
mhm,
For
mhm,
years, like, how do I move through this and rid this and or embrace this? So it was chaos. It was pure maddening chaos. But at the deeper levels, it was my own archetypes that were arising and being healed and transcended. It was
mhm,
narratives of ancient, myth stories within me that were really coming up. And so that became my focus. It wasn't so much a person and wanting this kind of 3D, what we're told you should have, but it was more about enjoying moments in my life where I got to see narrative and myth, and I got to, experience myself,
mhm,
and change narratives, right? To really
mhm,
heal, come into
mhm,
empowerment. Um, like you said, it triggers all of this dormant, wounded stuff. And so it
mhm,
was about my own union. And so again, it's like working with how I conditioned my own ego to believe things to be or want them to be. Um, And I think that's the hardest thing is just trying to learn how to be a human and be a spirit in one essence. And all
Yeah,
of the layers and levels and structures and surrendering and letting go and yeah, it's a lot. And
it is.
I'm really grateful like you had mentioned there's this alignment now with what I consider twin flame soulmates like you and these other relationships that we have that we're forming that we're collaborating and mirroring um and I feel like that's where the unity leads to.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's grown. It's funny because like GP Man, right, has been on my show for a long time. And now you can see that it's like growing. I've talked about community for so long, and it's taken me a while to find individuals that can carry the narrative that needs to be carried forward, in a transcendence into a new structures, new ways of designing the world that we exist in, harmonizing. But it starts with the connection between men and women, the partnership between men and women for us to heal that together. And there's no way that I could have done that by myself. That's just not, it's not a single
Mm,
journey. This is not a journey that gets to be walked alone. It has to be walked in partnership with other sisters and brothers. And
mhm,
that's the key. And I,
yeah,
so I think with the twin flame, what it provides and moving beyond it or transcending, is that I think there's a lot of misinterpretation of the twin flame. We've talked about that in the past, but also
yeah,
what's next. And from my particular own story, the twin flame, or who I would consider to be my twin flame, really did open up a part of me that was very dormant, and that was my sacred feminine. Because I was very masculine in my energy. Don't get me wrong, I'm very sensual and sexual, but I didn't really know how to utilize that in a way that was healing and healthy. It was more, I used it as a way to avoid being hurt, if you will,
mm,
or avoid being abused, right? So if you looked at my relationship with my father, I would be cutesy around him because that would open up his heart and not have him be abusive towards me, right? So I use that as kind of like a way to avoid ever feeling that aggressiveness or assertiveness from the masculine energy or the wounded masculine. But I was never able to fully develop into womanhood as a divine woman. So very masculine in the energy when I was assertive and
mm,
forward, but I couldn't be gentle and kind to myself. Like I wasn't nurturing. I was constantly on the go. I was like a drill sergeant with myself.
mm,
And I was trying to learn how to do all these things. The cool thing is that once my twin flame showed up and revealed this part of myself, what I realized is that because I became quote unquote the chaser in the narrative, right? Where I was chasing, chasing, chasing him, wanting him to hold that space for me, but he couldn't.
mhm,
Like, he wasn't the person, and so what's beyond the twin flame? So I, thought I was gonna have to suffer without this other person who kind of ignited that part of me, and I was like,
mhm,
"Wow, what am I supposed to do now? I don't even know where to go from here." When the twin flame showed up, what I realized for me is that that's what the twin flame does, but
mhm,
that's not the twin flame is not gonna be, for me, particular the one who's gonna hold space for me to heal through that narrative. And so somebody else has emerged to help me through that process, which is really, really, happiness is an inside job, absolutely. And so this other individual has showed up, and what has transpired beyond the twin flame narrative is that I'm able to be in partnership with the masculine energy in a safe way.
mhm,
And it's not sexual. And that's what I like. Not saying that sexuality isn't a part of that, but it's being able to transmute that energy of
mhm,
sexuality for the sake of healing, which
mhm.
is a whole other narrative, and like the detox that comes with it. Let me tell you what, if you're able to use this energy properly with another human being, right, the opposite sex, and not have sexual relations, but really just be there to hold that energy for each other, you will detox. Like, both of us are in a detox phase right now. It's just I mean, it's crazy to me. It's like the energy is finally starting to open up these channels, maybe even restructure the DNA
Mm,
internally. And it's a gentle cleanse and detox. It's not this aggressive, like, I don't feel sick. I just
mm.
know that my stomach and my solar plexus is just releasing a lot of stuff, like shit, literally, okay? Excuse my language. That may not sound very beautiful, but it is releasing the shit, okay? And I'm like, "Whoa, this is cool." Um, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to be able to find a partner that is willing to work with you that way without all of the construct of we need to be married, we need to be together, we need to even be physical. It's
Yeah.
not even about being together. It's about healing, which is very unique and very beautiful. And I'm actually grateful to the universe for giving me that gift because it's greater than any gift I could have ever expected, to be honest. Probably the greatest gift that I've received to this point in my life, really. Like, it just makes me wanna cry because it's like yeah, I mean, it's just beautiful to be able to see my energy, right? The kundalini experience, the snake, like, I've experienced the snake before, but this was like a whole other level of experience, you know what I mean? It's just I
Mhm,
can't even there's no words. Like, I could see the archetypal energy as an image, as a full image that was just trying to come out of my third eye, which was
mhm,
really cool. And it wasn't this aggressive, like, snake energy. It was more of, like, this, um, sensual, reserved, kinda like a sway of back and forth kinda energy. Like, I
mhm.
can't even describe, but it beautiful, just totally beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, your whole energy space and hearing the
Mhm,
stories, it's really, truly
mhm.
amazing and just really inspiring,
Mhm.
right, and it's had a massive ripple effect for sure,
Yes, uh-huh.
because
Yes, yes.
it has definitely impacted me and my journey, and again, more of the healing and internal integration,
Mhm.
um, transcending it through the Merkaba and, bringing it right, the Kundalini energy from that root chakra, up into the third eye myself, and that was pretty powerful. I was really proud, like, because I was like, do I really want to do this? Like, yeah, yeah, I do.
And it's good, right? It's just, like, this powerful it's life force and potential energy that we don't know really how to tap into, and I kind of feel like they don't want us to, right? Obviously.
Right.
Let's just look at sex in general and just, like,
Mhm.
how they've made any kind of sexual energy wrong.
Right.
And it's because they don't want us to figure out, like, that is the core of our it's like battery, it's like charging our batteries. You don't have to use it in a sexual way, you don't have to go out and be overly crazed, sexually. It's really harnessing the energy, which they talk about. Like, it's not something new that we're making up. It's just most people don't know how to embody it. Like, they read about it, they think about it, but actually doing it is a whole other level of
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to embody that energy and to allow yourself to really harness it, you it's weird because it's a never ending battery charge.
Right.
It
I
it
feel
just
like
keeps
yeah, I feel
giving.
like
It's
what
the gift that
porn
keeps giving. Yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
feel like what porn and right, the way women are,
Yep.
more used, I guess, as right, like a prop or a toy
Uh-huh,
or
uh-huh,
whatnot, because there's no
uh-huh.
value and honor and respect in some of the imagery. Um, it's such low vibrational, like, shadow wounds, and to
Uh-huh.
transcend that into a sacred space of tantra, um, and embody that on your own, like, for me personally, on my own individual journey, um,
Mhm,
because even finding a person who's worthy
mhm,
has, like, I'm not willing to give all of, myself in that space,
Mhm.
because it is such an
Absolutely.
honor. But it's been like you said, like, I mean, every one of us, we all have conditioned, like, problems. We have sexual wounds. Like, it's just such a massive thing. And I know, like, in the beginning, when me and you were talking, you're talking about, no relationships and just communication. And I'm talking about like the sexual energy. And again, here's the yin yang at play, because you have to have both halves because they unite. And and so now it's like we're shifting and seeing each other's point of views and understanding deeper. But the reality is it's so ingrained, and
Mhm.
and it's so taboo, and there's so much judgment and opinion. And for women to f- own their sexuality and to feel empowered, it's
Mhm.
really truly hard, because you have the masculine, who shames and demoralizes us, who wants to use it against us, right? Whore, all of those words that we're so used to like being thrown around.
Mhm.
And then you have judgment and fear, I think, even of other women. There's this intimidation that women feel by another woman's beauty and
Mhm.
sexuality,
Mhm.
because she
Mhm.
lacks
Mhm.
it within herself. And so
Mhm.
that's even being like projected out there. So you have all this heaviness, like
Mm,
strangling the life force
mm,
out of you before it
mm,
can even truly like heal and emerge.
mm,
And
mm,
so we're numbing it. We're again still in this void space of gratification. Um, and we all have wounds, you know what I mean? We all have things that we did that maybe we're not proud of, or looking for love, or searching for relationships, or just looking for connection, trying to find our way out of loneliness. And you know what I mean, stemming from parent issues. Like, it all ties into like our need for intimacy at the bottom line. And some people, I think it is with the sexual energy, there are times in our lives, especially teen years, early 20s, right? These really vulnerable phases of life where we're exploring and trying to understand, and we don't have wisdom, and we don't have guides, we don't have people helping us. Where it just gets so messed up and it gets so construed. And then you have society and the alcohol and the partying, you know what I mean, that it just pulls us farther and farther and farther away from like this true integration of masculine and feminine energy, of the Kundalini power.
mhm,
um
mhm,
and so for me, when this conversation came up, I was very much like, I love your journey and your path, and it's beautiful. And I've done my healing and you're doing your healing, and we can still work together and evolve and grow, because there's still so much similarities between our Lilith and Aphrodite,
mhm,
archetypes.
mhm,
And
mhm,
culturally, collectively, for women, it's so shamed, abused, disempowered. And I think
mhm,
that's where we're giving a voice and healing something beyond us. Um, and that's really beautiful, because
mhm,
women shouldn't be afraid of this divine goddess that wants to
mhm,
flow and express through them. And that's the truth, though. We don't feel safe, and
mhm,
we don't feel protected, and we don't feel cared for, and we feel just judged by other women. So it's really hard to find these spaces of acceptance.
mhm.
um yeah.
I think, yeah, no, I think it's beautiful. I think what you said about like like suffocating the life force out of us, and that's not just women, it's men. Literally, society has suffocated life force. Like they have made it wrong. And that's literally, it's like basically suffocating us from breathing because it's so connected, right? And and that's why there's a lot of healing that needs to happen around it, because people feel shameful, and it's not even about it's not even about actually doing any sexual act at all. It's
Mm.
allowing yourself to even feel the energy, or that sensual sexual energy move through you without even having to release that energy, but to utilize it as a tool for healing, which
Mm.
they've talked about over and over. Like I said, this is not some new information we're bringing out, but we're actually in the process of incorporating it into our own beingness, which then becomes a whole other you know, it becomes a whole other mystery and narrative, and it allows for other people to feel like, yes, it's possible for me and my healing, because I can tell you right now, I've had a lot of issues with, my uterus and all this stuff. And I've done so much to try to heal it and figure out what it is. And I know that a lot of it is just these deeper traumas that I haven't been able to like move
Mhm.
through my body. I just haven't been able to, and, like, this is the gift that I've been given so that I can do that, and I can tell you right now the energy is moving, and there has not been any sexual act at all, which is really cool. It's just me feeling the allowing myself to be with that potential and understand it and really listen to it and move with it. So part of it is like, okay, now what? How do we move through it? And I think it's really important. Like I think my journey is unique in that I was able to find another person, not even find, it just emerged. I shouldn't even say
Mhm.
find. I wasn't
Right.
looking for it. It just
Right?
emerged naturally for another individual to be able to hold space like that for me, which has
Yeah.
never happened, and that's why I didn't wanna be in relationship. I know people ask me, "Why have you never had kids? Why haven't you ever been married?" And I'm like, "Because I am a deep thinker. I don't wanna just be in a relationship for the physicality of it, to fill a void, and who else in the world is feeling like that?" You know what I mean? People can't most people can't get out of the idea that they have to be together as a couple, like, that whole construct in society, people are not able to transcend that narrative. It's like, "Well, I have to be married, I have to be together, I have to be with this person." Now we're putting labels, and, for me, all that does is it suffocates me, not just my life force, but literally, I can't breathe when I start thinking it's too much for me to hold. I don't wanna hold all that responsibility of, you know, titles and all this shit that goes with it and attachments and like,
Mhm.
oh, now this person's depending on me. Like, I don't want all that responsibility. I don't want it. I want people to be able to be responsible for their own healing. And also don't want people attaching to me. That was a big thing. That's been the hardest thing for me in terms of doing this work. Is that and I've told and I know GP Man's still on here. I know because he knows because you've been on here that I've always said it's not about finding a guru or somebody else. It's about your own ability to heal your own journey.
Absolutely.
And it's really hard because, when you look at the industry, I feel like the more followers a person has,
Yeah.
the further away they're pulling people from their own ability to heal internally, because it is good to have that guidance of an individual, but not to attach to that
Right.
individual. Very uniquely different among everybody, which gets hard for me because I don't want people to attach and cling to me and my ideas. I want them to utilize my ideas or my way of thinking to help them heal themselves and find
Mhm.
their own alchemy. But they've taken that away from us, you know what I mean? That they've ripped that apart. People even in, like, Carl Jung, right? Like, a lot of people attached to his work, and I'm like, "He was just an alchemist. That's his alchemy. We need to break away from that." He was trying to teach people how to find their own alchemy,
Right.
not to be attached to his. So they psychoanalyze his work, and, you can have a continuation of Jungian work, but I'm not gonna be totally, like, following in his steps. I might use some of his work, but there's other people, even the Gene
Mhm.
Keys, like, there's things that I like about what the guy is doing on the Gene Keys, but I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, I need to take every class of his. He's my guru. He's
Right.
my" No, I have my own alchemy and my own ways that I'm
Right.
co-creating with the world, and that is what people need to understand. So to find another individual at a partnership level to go through this with me, it's a very unique individual. It has to be a unique individual that knows that it's not about us being a couple or being together. It's about their ability to heal and my ability to heal. And we can do it together and we can do it apart. And in fact, this person doesn't even live where I live, which is probably a good thing, right? It's like so far apart. So that, and it's interesting because that individual's like, when we communicate, it's not about being with me, it's about here's oh my god, like I'm healing through this narrative of whatever surfacing, from family stuff, from traumas, and I'm going through this. How are you feeling? How are you? I'm detoxing. I'm going through. It's not about I miss you. I want to be with you. I love you. You know what I mean? It's not like that at all. And it's such a beautiful connection. And for me, that's what it's about. It's like this individual is actually healing. And I am like, that makes me cry because I'm like in my face seeing this individual just like blossom into this beautiful being that they are. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's the same, even the same with you, right?
Yeah.
It's the same with you. And
Yeah.
it's like, you're blossoming into this beautiful being that you are. It's like that's all I've ever wanted to is to be with people who are wanting to heal into their
Yeah.
power. It's just
Absolutely.
like beautiful.
It
Like,
is.
shit, why can't we have a community like that? I don't understand.
No, I agree completely. Like, the whole thing about your own empowerment is so important, and I don't even
Mm,
think people realize it on a conscious level that every day they give away their power when they're
mhm,
seeking answers and they're seeking healing from outside sources.
yeah,
Like, they'll be tools, right? There'll be resources along your path to help you, but it's always an inside job. It's your accountability, it's your responsibility. Like, yeah, I agree completely. And it's been beautiful to hold space, to feel safe with masculine and feminine energy. Don't feel, judged or shamed at all, to be
mhm,
able to just to open up with you guys. And then the ripple effect, the inspiration, has been
mhm,
truly, as a group, collaborating together. um it's fun because it feels like we're experimenting and we're doing our
uh-huh.
own research. We're our own little case study group. And through
Yeah,
that, we're
exactly.
coming up with all these amazing ideas for,
Uh-huh,
retreats and ways to facilitate and give back in the future. Um, but taking our time with it and really learning and really honoring. I think that's the beauty of it, because we're messing. Well, I don't want to say messing, but we're exploring Kundalini,
uh-huh,
sexual life force,
mhm, mhm,
sacral root chakra energy,
mhm, mhm,
intentionally and purposefully, to not give in to like the joys and sensations of pleasure, but to listen
mhm,
to our body, to see where that energy is going and moving, how it's healing through chakras, like you were saying earlier, that battery, like, right,
mhm,
using the
mhm,
chi and moving it.
mhm,
And for me, I think that's like the bigger part of the twin flame. Like, and I know this is where we have different perspectives and different life paths again. But again, it's not so much about being in harmony or in union with this one specific person who has to
mhm,
be my partner, but allowing many or any partners, right, to
mhm,
kind of come and go in whatever role they need to play, because they're
mhm,
a supporting character, right, in my journey. And I'm a supporting character in their journey. So to get caught up in the programming of that, I think robs you of the surrender and the unknown
mhm,
of what the soul is trying to experience. Because, like you said, we get caught up in labels. We get caught up in like first date, second date. Like, when do I contact? I have to wait for an
mhm.
hour. I can't. If I respond right away, I'm clingy and needy. So we set up these mind games. And then we cause anxiety and fear, you know what I mean? And it just screws up the communication. It like, so I think for me, it was always working through the toxic, wounded stuff, right? I mean, I've opened up about relationships for sure, and just having the toxic masculine, that really controlled and manipulated and harmed my empathic, I think naturally submissive nature,
Mhm,
to a point where it was
mhm,
abused and I was stifled, and right, that suffocation of my life force energy, where
mhm,
the
Mhm.
universe was like, we have to open you up. Like, you have a bigger purpose and a path. You know, you can't become a shell of a human at 32 and just give up and die inside,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
Um, so whatever means needs to happen for all of that chaos, it will. And now I
Mhm.
feel like the unity's happened within that, the mirroring of these partnerships that are whole and healthy, high
Mhm.
vibrational, new paradigm, right? A new conscious vibration that is leading the way forward. Um, that's where it's like this unity, this leadership, this
Mhm.
purity, this wholeness. Um, I do want a partnership one day. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I do
Mhm.
want like one special person that I can really expand and merge souls. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And again, there's this vibrational programmed pattern of twin flame oneness and separation. You know what I mean? That plays out, that, believe me, I want to rip out of my body. Like, I wish I could alter the programming of the DNA and the life path. um, because it can be too much.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's embracing our own unique intuition, and our heart is the compass, and not trying to listen to other people as distractions who say they have all the answers and only they can give the healing and only they can
Mhm.
provide the awareness.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tapping into your own wisdom.
Yeah.
And knowing your own wisdom and trusting yourself through your own healing process, because like we don't live in your body, I don't live in your body, I don't know what's going on in there. You know what I mean? I don't know if I want to know what's going on in there. Just kidding. I have my own shit that's going on in my own body that I have to deal with. So, um, but I think yeah, the life force and all that kind of stuff, being stifled is something that gets to be transmuted, transformed, and allowing that potential energy to move through the body for healing purposes and detox purposes, which to me is like, holy crap, like, I know we do detoxes with juice and this and that and the other. I'm like, I never thought of using this energy to detox my body. And it's going through a detox. It still is. It's
Mhm.
like I'm still detoxing, seriously. Like, even right now, as I'm sitting here, I can feel the energy moving through my solar plexus and like healing that energy through there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, like this is what I needed. And the thing that's really cool, and it's why we're calling it beyond the twin flame narrative, is because it's unity consciousness within the self, which is like such a beautiful thing, which I think eventually you get to that space where you have come to unity consciousness, and then you're able to let emerge what emerges. That's where I started with, is like I've been able to fully surrender to whatever is showing up now. Am I going to say it's perfect? No, it's practice. Like, and I've said this a million times too. I'm sure GP Man's heard me say this a million times too. There's the distinction between the master and the beginner. It's not that the master doesn't experience the pain and suffering, it's that the master can transmute it and transform it fast. So fast that it looks like nothing happened,
Mhm.
but it actually does. It does. It's not that we are getting rid of, and that's not ever the point. We live in a 3D world, right? We're still stuck in this three-dimensional time space where we know that dualities exist, but how do you harmonize those dualities? And that's the point, right? It's finding
Mhm.
the harmony between the two, not even the balance. I've kind of like looked at the balance. It's more harmonious energy
Yeah.
that flows back and forth. The yin yang, which is why we have the symbol of the yin yang, makes complete sense in how to harmonize internally. And so once you find the union within yourself, then all of the existence around you starts to harmonize. And
Mhm.
that what is supposed to emerge emerges. And as it emerges, you realize what is mirroring back to me. Because what's coming back, whether it be feel comfortable, uncomfortable, whatever it is truly what needs to emerge for you to heal or to find that harmony balance in yourself again. So it's like
Your
going back
empowerment.
in, without,
Mhm.
without, within. You know what I mean? As above, so below. Now,
Mhm.
the above and below is a whole other thing. I think right now we're talking about the body, the harmony in the body, which is a different connection than the harmony with the macrocosm, which is then a whole other, that's a whole other place to explore. Right now, I'm exploring the inner workings of my own body, and
Yeah.
how my body functions, understanding my internal organs, letting the energy kind of circulate through my gut, letting it circulate, and feeling where it's going, feeling, because I think the energy is naturally trying to harmonize through the chakras, right?
Absolutely.
It's clearing, it's detoxing the shit that doesn't need to be there, which is kind of cool. And I'm like, wow, I think this is totally the opening of the DNA RNA transmutation, is this life force energy,
Mhm.
um, that we can move through our body, so that our body is the complete open vessel to receive that potential from the macrocosm, which would be third eye stuff, right?
Right.
Which then, you unify it together.
Right.
But for me right now, I'm letting it just circulate within my own body and letting it detox my stuff, because I have a lot of issues again with my uterus and endometriosis, and I've gone through so much crap there. My stomach was starting to hurt a lot, and I'm like, God, I eat healthy, I work out. What is going on with me? Why can't I? And it's hidden traumas within the tissues of my body, I believe, or
Mhm.
within the DNA that needs to be purified and cleared. And it's this life force, this sexual life force energy, this wheel. It's the divine wheel, the fire that gets to kind of move up, which is just, I mean, to me, it's just like, I'm like learning so much, just allowing the energy to move through me
Mm.
and be in that place, but to find the unity within myself. Um, because even think about it, like the stomach is the brain, right? How do we rewire our intestines? And I think this is how you rewire it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is like a rewiring of your guts, a
Yeah.
rewiring of your first brain, which they say the stomach
Right.
is like the first brain, right?
Yep.
How do we rewire it? Well, I feel like this is the way you rewire it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Exploring the chakras, dealing right
Mhm,
with your own internal energy. That
mhm.
and plant medicine, if you're called. I've
Yep.
definitely done massive
Mhm.
reprogramming and
Sure.
alterations through
Uh-huh.
plant medicine journeys.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you find that unity consciousness, which is
Mhm.
beyond the twin flame narrative.
Yeah. I mean, everything's oneness for sure. It's just trying to
Mhm,
lead you back home to oneness, back to your
mhm.
heart, back to this internal
Yep.
unification. And
Mhm,
then, like you
mhm.
said, it mirrors in your external world, depending on all of that vibrational frequency.
Yep. It radiates out, which
Yeah.
is just really cool, because I mean, where I'm at right now, in the situations, because I'm not just in a space of like this sexual energy and healing. I'm also like doing things, in a PhD program, right? Like where
Mhm.
now I'm entering into this whole academic space and narrative too, that's very leaning one way or the other. It's not very harmonized, and so it's like moving through that arena
Mm.
on the external, and letting things emerge as they emerge through that.
Mhm.
Um, what is for me next? I
Right.
don't know, but I'm willing to open up and receive the gifts,
Right.
which is just a totally different way of approaching life
The
for me.
feminine energy that was wounded and lacking previously for you.
Uh-huh.
Like
Uh-huh.
you started off talking about, being dominant in your masculine. So this
Mhm.
is you allowing your feminine to rise. And so then they begin to integrate, right, more and more.
Yep.
And I know like that's what I've been experiencing for years now. Has been gosh, Beltane of 2020, so 4 years now. This
Yeah.
masculine feminine marriage. That was the first time I kind of embraced some of that So it never ends, there's
Huh?
always diving
Yep.
in. But I want to say really quick too, just because I feel like it's really important for women, listening, where especially where, you haven't had children and I've had four children.
Mhm,
This came
mhm,
up in our
mhm,
conversation. Um, I was in a marriage relationship from 15 to 32. So, like, I didn't have youthful dating, kind of explorational phases of my life. My stuff came in my 30s, much later. But in that process of one thing I did discover that I was very much, like you said, buried in those tissues and subconscious wounds. Um, was the womb trauma of having four children. Um, all of my babies, were beautiful and healthy. Like I didn't have the only one complication was my third child had the umbilical cord around his
mm,
throat. And so like I had to stop, pretty much as he was first emerging. Um, and so there was panic, there was fear. Um, and so, like, I found those layers within my body and my womb, years after the fact. And I never knew I was, carrying around that trauma. And what it was really truly doing was it was blocking my sexual energy from fully opening and expressing, some of its true nature. So with intention, that was work that I did on my own. There was no one I could talk to or confide in, like I didn't have this type of friendship, with another female. Um, so I had to, go through each child, each one on my own and stuff. So I just think it's really important to fully look at, like your body and your experiences, especially for those of us, which is so common for women that have had sexual abuse and rape.
mm,
So even
mhm,
those layers that, again,
mhm,
I had personally had to clear away. And then that causes, right, the ripple effect of that wound then causes either your sexuality to become promiscuous or to become shut down. So again, there's so much to really dive in and explore. And I
mhm,
think
mhm.
it's really beautiful that we can hold a podcast episode like this and share experiences and address, collective shadow and wounds and systems that have been in place, to make us fear our sexual energy or to shame it, or what I mean, to be judged and to be victimized by others for it. And none of that's okay. Like none of it's okay, because at the end of the day, we're all sexually wounded and traumatized
Mhm, mhm,
and conditioned and programmed, and we're all just trying to unravel it and figure it out, or and we either shut it down or we seek intimacy, repress or react. um so yeah, just something to kind of throw out there that I've been thinking about as we've been talking.
No, I think, and then thank you for bringing that up because I think that's really important. Because the abuse that has come from the sexual energy or the repressed sexual energy, even in society, you know what I mean? Which we know religiously, that there has been some weird shit that's showed up, in religious organizations because of that. Because it's like,
Mhm.
well, let's just pretend we don't, then you have all kinds of weird things surfacing sexually because of that, or you have these survivors of even sex trafficking, even like those are the bigger shadow issues, or
Mhm.
rape, or whatever it is, and both men and women, right? It's not just a
Yes.
one-sided thing. That does come up, and I think that that's something that, and then being a mother, like having to go through birthing a child, that's another huge thing, I think, that needs to be expressed. So thank you for bringing that up, because those are some of the things that I don't know, what I mean, haven't been through,
Mhm.
um but still have a deep compassion for, and want people to be able to heal past those traumas as well. And
Right.
sometimes it's really understanding your own sexual potential, right?
Right.
and energy, and knowing that it's not wrong, um, and that if it was abused, that healing, journey, is going to be really, really important, to be able to transcend it, right, and to move it up, and to understand it. And that's why I think abstaining from actually doing it is such a powerful tool, which is not an easy thing to do, especially if you're more sexually charged than other people or have a high libido. It's not easy to not feel like you have to release that energy. And trust me, there's a fight in it. Like I fight, you know what I mean, to hold the energy in, just because of, like you said, someone can be overly charged or have this very toxic relationship with it. And they could be overly or not at all dormant, where it's like the life force in you is dormant, and that can lead to some major issues as well.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I think it's really, thank you for bringing that up. It's important to talk about those things as well, for individuals.
Mm.
But beyond that, at the end of the day, no matter where you are in the journey, whether it's like healing from having being made wrong for it, or being forced into something you didn't want to do, or just trying to understand yourself, the main message here is that at the end of the day, this is about your own unity, consciousness, internal healing through sexual energy, and allowing that energy to be understood, and looked at as a way to heal or detox your body on a personal level. Whether if you're doing it with a partner, I would say abstaining and then giving yourself time to process by through separation, so that you can figure out what it is for you. If you're doing it alone, abstaining, then that's equally as powerful, right? So it's just being able to look at the energy and see what needs to be healed, so that you can come to union within yourself, right, and allow the life force to energize you,
Right.
constantly recharge you, because it can just keep recharging, which is kind of cool. Like I never understood that before. I thought I did, but not until I really, not until I really did, right? Until I really
Yeah.
practiced it, until you really do it, you
Yeah.
don't really know, and it's like getting to that breaking point of like, I don't know how to hold this energy, but you hold it anyway. And that takes a lot of discipline.
Mm.
A lot.
Yeah. It definitely can.
Yeah. Especially if someone's really charged person, you know what I mean,
Oh
has a
yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
charge.
No, I know what you
But
mean. That's
yeah,
why I was
it's
like,
not
"You'll be
easy.
proud of me. I did the practice." Then
It's not an easy
I was kind
practice.
of
It's
like,
not. It really isn't.
"Do I want to? Like, what do I want to do with this? Where do
It's
I want to go here?"
I know. Yeah, and if you could just hold it,
Yeah.
right? Which is, you know, and it's just as equally hard for women as it is
Right.
men. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
Yeah.
easy for us not to want to give into that pleasure. You know what I mean? That's a hard thing too,
Right.
you know?
But it was cool.
Like we have a lot of we have a lot of like central places that are like, triggers for us,
Yeah.
like a lot. So it's and especially if a woman knows her body
Right.
enough, you know what I mean? She understands like, oh, well, here's this, here's that, we have so many pleasure points that if we know our body enough, sometimes we get lost in that,
Mhm.
feeling, where to abstain from that is like, it's not easy for us either. Trust me. Like I want to punch something, but once you're able to move that energy up and transmute it, like for me, it's a super detox. I'm like, holy crap. Like I have some stomach issues I need to work through.
Mm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like solar plexus stuff I need to work through. Like I've moved it up to the heart, once or whatever, but I'm not even really ready to move it up to even the heart and the third eye yet, because my body is like going through this natural detox still. Like my stomach is rewiring
Yeah.
itself from this energy. So I'm like, okay, let me play with it in these lower regions,
Mm.
before I can actually move it up.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what that is and like, can I continue to detox? And trust me, today, detox.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just by abstaining and allowing myself to like feel that and then just intentional be like, okay, breathe and move it
Mm.
through. And then my stomach's like,
Yeah.
release all this crap.
Yeah. So can I ask though, like, is this the first
Mhm.
time on your, I guess, like healing journey or whatnot? Like, have you tried tackling like healing sexual energy before with intention, or is this really your first? Like,
I was doing it incorrectly, I
okay.
believe. I think that I was releasing the
Mm.
energy because I thought, and I'm just going to say it just if kids are there, through masturbation itself, right? Or like through releasing
Right.
the energy,
Climax.
but with the intention of connecting to my third eye, kind of what you were talking about the other day. Like, I thought that that energy was the healing energy that I was supposed to release it and let it go. But with intentionality, when the reality was no,
Yeah.
I am supposed to take this energy and abstain from releasing it, which is not that hasn't been easy because I've always given to the
Right.
urge. You know what I mean? I just have always since I was little, like I'm telling you, like since I was a little girl. You know what I mean? I've always, and for me, I think there was this shame and embarrassment. Like I didn't admit to like ever like masturbating till like I was older, way
Yeah.
older. You know what I mean? For I was like, no, I don't do that. No
Right.
way. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it took me being around a bunch of women who were powerful enough to be like, girl, what are you talking about? You know what
Right.
I mean? Then I'm like, okay, yeah. So then opening up to that is, I think it's a topic that's very hard for people, some
Right.
people.
Yeah, because I was definitely shut off,
Um,
like, shameful, didn't want
mhm,
to, like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna touch
mhm,
myself, like, it's gross, like, what are you doing?"
mhm.
So, I was, like, relying on a
And I was
partner or
like,
whatnot, but I was also 15 when I ended up, getting, pregnant at 16, and so that just became the path, but so that sexual exploration, like, yeah, came it's so important, and so
yeah, and and then I was
yeah.
little. I was
Yeah,
little. Honestly, I was a young girl. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I just
yeah,
knew. I guess I just knew how to, like, I just always had a high libido since I was a little
yeah,
girl. And so I think with that, like growing up and stuff like that and seeing and wondering, if people were like that, I thought I was like the only person that was like that. And so, it was always behind closed doors by myself.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I think, and being able to talk about it now is like, it's empowering because I'm learning how not to give into the urge because I would thinking as I got older, like, oh, this is healing energy for me. Like, how do I use it to heal
mm,
instead of just like, oh, this is pleasure? Um, and now it's a whole new thing where I'm like, let me
mm,
abstain and realizing how frustrated
mm,
it can be if I abstain from the energy, if I don't release it. There's this really
mm,
frustration inside of me where I like kind of get angry. And then when I'm able to release that, it moves up and then I
yeah,
cry. And it's like these old wounds that I have that I'm able to
yeah,
heal. And then my stomach just starts to like rumble and do all these weird things. And then I just like
yeah.
release. Like the release is literally coming out as poop. I'll just say that. That's the release that I need is I'm holding on to toxic shit,
Yeah.
literally. So, so there is a release. It's just not,
Yeah,
it's through tears and it's through
yeah.
poop, I guess. That's so there you go, people. I don't know how there
I
I go.
I
It's
I've
just
cried
talking.
rivers over the years, I will say, and that's the one
Uh-huh.
thing in the past, like, year, 6 months or so, um, since right, like, we were talking about these connections with these masculine energies that are these safe spaces that hold space for us, and so through this, like,
Right.
newer kind of friendship that serves its own purpose and role, I've been able to, like, see my path, right, kind of mirrored and reflected. And so it was like, oh, the twin flame stuff was really mirroring lots of sexual wounds, lots of, and
Mhm.
it was so deep that I didn't even understand it or see it at the time. Because I had been so oppressed and so shut down and so sexually dormant. And so, like, with the archetypal energy, like all springing to life, it was like total chaos, because then it was, I mean, I'll be honest, like I wasn't attracted to my ex-husband. Like I
Mhm.
spent my 20s, just not physically, like, it was more of a wifely duty. And I was too damn young for
Oh,
that.
wow.
That's for sure.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yep, yep,
um
yep, yep.
so here we are now, though, and it's just really beautiful and interesting to just kind of explore it and talk about it and be open and honest, and know, like, we all are doing it to ourselves, in a sense of like suffocating the energy and stifling it, misusing it. Part of my healing journey, because I've done so much alone, right? So it was like sex magic,
Mhm,
learning
mhm,
how to
mhm,
manifest at the peak of orgasm, to be able,
mhm,
like,
mhm,
and so now for me, like, I know to elevate into potential, it is now like waiting for that sacred right partner to explore tantra, to really
mhm,
go
mhm,
into like a healed place of sexuality. Um
mhm.
and so I think, again, that's part of, right, what comes next when we move past these narratives. Th-
Yep,
There's there's no
yep,
desire. Like, I could never go back to like a dating site. I could never try
yeah.
and be like, okay, well, it's Friday night and I'm bored and I'm lonely. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'll take myself out on a date. And then if I meet somebody, I meet
Mhm.
somebody, but there's no pressure to make life happen. And I don't need that. Like,
Yes.
I love the people that are in my life, and I'd rather see where these relationships kind of unfold and flower into than try to bring in anybody new, even. Because I think that's the thing. We go on dating sites and think we're going to make connections, and we have this list of judgments and ideals and wants and needs from that we expect of the other person, when we haven't even worked on that for ourselves. And so right from the foundation, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, failure, miscommunication, misalignment. Um so yeah, it's going to bring some more interesting conversations down the road to this podcast, for sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and what you're saying is absolutely right on point. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. I think there's a lot of dialogue and narrative that needs to happen. I think there's a lot of communication that needs to happen between both men and women about this. And I think that being able to hold the energy in and allow it to do the natural work that it's supposed to do is where the power lies, because beyond that, I'm not sure. It's funny. I'm like, I'm gonna end up like Doctor Strange and opening portals and walking through the, you know what I mean? That's kind of how you feel.
I
Like,
might write my book
to harness
finally.
that energy. I know, to harness that energy internally is such a gift. We don't get there. Um, we're disjointed and disconnected from each other in a way that society has naturally done this to us,
Mhm.
and kind of put us in these boxes, and it's so much more than that. And so I think as we, continue to tap into that potential, the people that are naturally supposed to arise in the space
Mhm.
will. And like, I'm on the same boat as you. Like, I don't need other people in my life at this point, because it takes a very unique individual to be able to understand the narrative that we're talking about as well at this point. And not saying that people aren't there, but the work that goes into getting to this point where you can even be talking about sexual energy without thinking of it shamefully, and knowing that it's a healing potential. I mean, that takes a lot, because there's so much conditioning in the
Mhm.
collective about how bad it is. how much shame there is around it, talking about, even masturbation or just sex in general. And I think there's a lot of misconstrue. It's not like, oh, because I have all these pleasures, I'm just gonna, I can, it's not even about that either. It's, to me, it's more about using this energy to detox your
Mm-hmm.
body, because that energy has the potential to do it. And I'm actually experiencing that, which is like, holy crap, this can maybe heal a lot of the issues that I'm having with endometriosis, with, my stomach issues that have been happening. Like, honestly, this detox is helping me to expel things that in a gentle way. It's not like it's this, it's not like I'm having to go to the doctor and drink some medicine that in your stomach cramps and hurts, and you know what I mean, or whatever. It's like I am detoxing naturally, and I'm understanding how this energy can actually cure parts of your body without having to use any external medicine,
Right.
using the life force within your own body, which is like, holy shit. Like, I think that's why they didn't want us to learn how to use this. I think that part of it was like, I think they had these codes back in the day, and there's literature on it. But people misconstrue that too. They think that it's having another partner to have orgasm, and that's not even the point. Like, to me, the point is healing. And I honestly think that, and then it's just mind-boggling to me. I'm like, how deep can I heal my own internal organs with this energy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, completely heal my body internally. I don't know how much this can even heal people who are having issues right now with anxiety, with, you know what I mean? But to let the energy do what it needs to do, to move through the body, to detox it. Like, it's a detox. It's like, I'm like going like, whoa, like, it's, to me, it's just crazy. You know what I mean? And then almost like think that it's, and I even want to look, because I'm sure somebody's written about it. I haven't even like looked into it like at all. I just went into it. I don't even know. I read a little bit about tantric stuff, but I don't really know a lot about it. And I just did it. I'm like, let's just do it. And like, Kung Fu has helped with that too. But if rewiring the brain means that we feed ourselves healthy thoughts, then rewiring the stomach might be feeding ourselves healthy sexual energy through life force or
Right, right. To
something.
create. Because when you think about it, with the womb space being right there, all we think about is creating babies, right? The reproduction. But when you go deeper, that's the key to manifestation. That is the true key to like creating the things that you desire, your passions, your alignments. When you can align your
Mm-hmm.
body, your mind, your heart, your sexual energy, and you have completely alignment and with intention that is pure to your path, right? Like that's where the magic happens. That's
Uh-huh.
where you can really, not only use it internally to heal yourself, like you said, recharge and heal yourself, but externally to manifest the things you want to create for your experience.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm telling you, I
Hmm.
can't.
Got to do the healing so you can get to the creating and remove the blocks, remove the wounds, right? So you can create
That's
from a
correct.
powerful. And I think that's why I'm just like, I mean, I don't want to compare journeys or anything, but I think that's why it's just different because out of that marriage, was kind of forced into exploring sexuality in my 30s and a whole new what the hell is this world, let me tell you, because technology and stuff didn't exist in the way it did as a teenager. um so it
Mhm.
was like walking into a whole new, I was not prepared for the things that men do. Like I was not prepared for the way, like, pics were just sent in
Mhm.
inboxes, like unsolicited,
Yep.
conversations. Like I didn't know how to communicate. Like so
Mhm.
all of those things entwined for sure. Um, and I don't know, it's scary because now, like, teenagers, right? Preteens and teenagers who have
That's right.
phones, these girls are experiencing this at like junior high level, sending pictures of themselves or receiving pictures. And it's like, how much
Mhm.
as parents are we even talking? Like, because we're not, we don't know. We're not healthy and healed. So we're definitely not like sharing any sexual healed like wisdom or knowledge to children. It's just the basics of the birds and the bees. And, like, so I don't know. Again, it's that expansion of healing and the uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but creating, right? We want to create a more civilized, unified civilization.
Mhm.
And that's,
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it, and you're absolutely right, like, the kids are facing some pretty challenging things. There are some children who are highly connected, though,
yeah.
and are holding the unity consciousness. Oh, thank you very much. That are holding the unity consciousness space for this next level of humanity, and some that are maybe falling into the trap of that narrative. But I do
Mm,
hear, my nephew, all that kind of stuff. But then again, my sister too is very big on, educating them on, like, know the person you're with. She's given them that,
yeah.
sex talk, the deep one connection and all that. And I think that they're trying to explore that, but also feel like there are individuals or children out there who are like, hey, are young adults out there who are like, I do want something more meaningful than this. They see that it's just too much, right? It's overstimulating, and they're trying to abstain from all that stuff
Mm,
too. But I think collectively, you're right. It's the healing part. And I think that's the big piece.
yeah.
If we could do this sexual stuff, and talk about it and bring it into light and use it for the purposes of
Yep.
healing, I
Yeah.
think they have shut us off from that
Right. It's just to
narrative
shame and
completely. Like,
judge, right? Pretty much.
no one taught me how to fricking use the
Mm,
sexual energy I had to
yeah.
heal. You know what I mean? No one knew how. Like you said, there's like, no one knew how, it was like,
Yeah.
okay. And now I'm like, holy shit, like I'm tapping into this whole world that, took me all this long to get there. This whole world that's just, and it's also a very beautiful world
Yes.
that I'm tapping
Mm,
into, where I'm going like,
so much
whoa,
gratitude.
this
Yeah.
is, it's so much
Mm,
gratitude. So, I mean, it's
yeah.
just, and it's not this weird, like, oh, tantric sex. I say, it's funny because, they were speaking about, the person I'm working with. I'm not gonna say any names unless they're willing for me to say their name, but whatever, one day I'll say their name. Is that the individual's like, well, I was looking up, information about it. He's like, and definitely there's a lot of people doing it just incorrect. Like, he
Oh
just
yeah.
knows,
Oh,
he's like, tantric speed dating,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
tantric
It's just
speed.
another way to
Who
capitalize on sex. Like porn and other, you know what I mean? That's why I'm saying like sacred.
tantric
To
speed
me it's sacred tantra. Like, you know what I mean? Cuz you're yeah.
tantric speed
Yeah.
dating. Who even does that? You know what I mean? So it's like, fine if that's what you think, but you're bypassing the
Mm,
true power of what this particular essence
mhm.
has and what it provides for us. And if we can transcend
Mhm.
that, like, holy
Yeah.
shit. Like, we are looking at a community, that next phase of community where we're harmonized with nature and all and everything, which is like
Right.
fucking, excuse my language, really cool. That just came out. So, you know,
Please.
I don't think they care if we cuss here, but I'm just oops. And that was like way later, so I don't know if anybody's gonna listen to that long anyway. So it just came out. Okay. Freudian slip. Um but yeah, so I don't know. So we're at an hour and 13. Looks like we can continue to talk about this, but we can continue the conversation next
Mm,
time. Want
yeah.
to? Um, so I think with that, maybe we'll call it a day. I know we have so much more to share and stuff like that is so
Yeah,
powerful.
it really is.
The creative potential, juices flowing and stuff. So do you have anything else to share before we
No, I
get
just
off?
love how you're like, get the juices flowing to end though, Natalie. Like, literally and figuratively. Let your
Okay,
juices
yes. And I
flow.
always say that. Oh my god, yes, I know. Sheesh.
Tap into the creative. I'm bringing
Always
it up.
looking.
I've got it hooking and connecting my Merkaba and my crown and the third
Mhm.
eye and creative. For me, it's definitely a creative source. Um, so
Awesome.
yeah, it's going to be fun to continue to experiment and explore the research.
We'll continue the narrative on our next podcast. I think this has to be fully discussed. Maybe we'll bring in the guys if they're willing to be that vulnerable on the narrative and conversation, which I think would be great because
Absolutely.
this is what we need to
I think
heal.
they I
So
think at some point they will.
yeah. So there you have it. We love you. Have a fantastical
Mhm.
week. And we will be seeing you next week a little later. Of course, these are like all over the place, but it's fine. No worries. And we love you and have a good day. Anything else,
No,
Pam?
have a great day, everyone.